Clerk, the time is 7:01. I'm going to call this council meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together into a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Weiss, Councilor Gilliland. Comments or questions? Call the vote. Councilor Gilliland. Councilor Gilliland's a yes. Councilor Thompson. Councilor Thompson's yes. That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councilor Reese. One sec, Councilor. One sec. Just putting. Okay, go ahead.
8.3.2. I'll declare an indirect pecuniary interest because I've engaged with both of the organizations in the report.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none. Move to community presentations. We have two this evening. 5.1. Tamas, Hertel, Service Planning Manager, York Region Transit regarding the 2025 York Region Transit Annual Plan. Welcome. Good to see you. Okay. Just remind you, you have 10 minutes and the floor is yours. Yeah, it's good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor Maracas, members of council, for having me back here again this year to present to you this update of YRT services, and Mayor Maracas specifically for your promotion and advertising of YRT as Transportation Services Chair, York Region. I have 10 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me run through the slide deck here. The next slide. So quick agenda. I'll start off with an overview of the annual plan process that we go through on a yearly basis at YRT. Before moving on from that into the 2025 annual plan, I will highlight the service initiatives that we implemented in 2024 as they pertain to the town of Aurora. I'll talk about stakeholder and public consultations and how they inform the work that we do for the annual plan, before highlighting what the 2025 annual plan initiatives are proposed to be, followed by some projects and programs we continue to work on at YRT. Second, lastly, we'll highlight some ridership trends as we see them, as specifically they pertain to the town of Aurora. And finally, next steps. Okay. So the annual plan process is a wheel, and you might remember this from last year when I presented it. It's a wheel because it never ends. We are currently in finalizing the annual plan phase. We will be including the annual plan as part of the regional operating budget in November. Back in the springtime, at the bottom right portion of the wheel was our stakeholder and public consultation process, including a number of events here in the town of Aurora. And already we are already starting to work on 2026 annual plan initiatives as we finalize the 2025 plan. So the wheel just continues in motion and overlaps from year to year, really. So for 2024, it was really just one big, from a service planning perspective, route improvement in the town of Aurora. We extended the Route 33, Wellington, up all the way to Newmarket to the Park and Ride on Davis Drive. So it's now called the Wellington-Leslie route in a bit of an L shape. a new route through the Addison Hall Business Park, and a couple of the photos there show the bus running through the Addison Hall Business Park and its new routing. That was implemented in September. Not on the slide, but important to mention as well, was that we, with the leadership of the province back in February, we helped implement the provincial One Fare program. And that was a landmark item, something that transit systems have been advocating for decades. The province really took the leadership on that. What that means is that now YRT customers no longer have to pay for a TTC fare when they transfer, and vice versa when they come back. So it's all on one fare. Also important to note, not part of YRT, but something that was also implemented as part of the program, is a free transfer between the TTC and GO. So now when you get on the GO at Aurora GO station, go down to Toronto, if you switch to TTC, or TTC fare is now free as well. And on the way back too. That's something that we've had at YRT with GO since 2022, but TTC has now implemented it with GO as well. We also made mobile wallet available on Apple. That was also through the leadership of the province. Last year, we implemented it on Google. So now on both platforms, it's available. So the public consultation program is a backbone to setting up our 2025 transit initiatives. This slide highlights some of the key items that we ran through during the process, kicked off by the annual meeting that we have with town staff every year. That happened on March 21st. We had some great discussions about new developments, projects that the town is working on, and how it impacts and provides opportunities for YRT. This year, we made sure to get out to at least 2 events in every municipality in the region. In Aurora specifically, that was the public library, and as well as a street festival. We had a table set up there on June 2nd. All that was really trying to get residents to our online platform, which was available on yrt.ca/transit plan, where we had an interactive map. Residents could see what we were proposing and leave comments on what we're proposing, and new ideas as well for us to consider. This year, we received double the amount of comments that we did last year, which was great news for us, and a lot of work for staff, but great news overall. We also ran a survey because the GW Williams School is moving, as we know, next year. We ran a survey for students to see how they wish to travel to and from school. This is, by the way, just in addition to the regular outreach that our marketing team does. We did attend and provide an e-bus for your town hall, your town square opening earlier this month. And also in September, we visited the senior center as well, amongst other things earlier this year. So what feedback did we receive? Basically, the 3 key points that we heard from Aurora residents are highlighted on this slide here. We had requests for more improved connections to the GO train via the Route 33. We had requests for a bus route along Bathurst Street, north of Bloomington, in addition to Yonge and Bayview, which we already have, and now Leslie as well. And we had requests for a bus route through the Aurora Heights area, particularly for students. So for 2025, a bit of a long list of initiatives, and really 2025 in Aurora seems to be the year of school special improvements, as highlighted on this slide. But before I get to those, we will be increasing the frequency on the Route 33, and that helps with the comment that received on the earlier slide with connections to GO trains. With better frequency, you have a better connection to the GO trains that arrive and leave the station there. The 96, which runs in between Pioneer Village and York University, all the way up to Newmarket through Aurora on Yonge Street, we actually were already able to implement Sunday service on that, which wasn't available before. As a result of some efficiencies we found in the system, that went in September. That's a 2025 initiative we put in early. We also expanded Sunday service. The 7 school special changes that we're proposing are really a result of 3 main things. One is Dr. GW Williams moving locations next year. We need to change the routes. Or a result of the school boundaries changing between Dr. GW Williams and Aurora Secondary, also resulted in a rejigging of some routes. And also we found some opportunities to really simplify some routes and make it easier for students to understand. The last item there, on request North Central, is our on request service in the town of Aurora, in addition to the Go service that we have. This initiative we actually already implemented this year as well. Currently, it's still called On Request Newmarket Aurora Oak Ridges. We haven't amalgamated with the North yet, but what it's resulted in June is Sunday service introduced to Aurora for the on request services, which wasn't there before as well. And we've expanded the service area to include the Addison Hall Business Park. So that's a 2025 initiative we have already implemented. So the next few slides, if you recall from last year, are build slides. We show the service as it currently is or was before this year, followed by highlighted in dark blue, the improvements that we made to the 33 and extending it up to Newmarket this year. And then here's where it gets really busy for 2025. This highlights all the school special changes we're making, as well as in the blue hatched area is the on request Aurora, Oak Ridges, Newmarket service improvement and the expanded service area as well. So some projects and programs, I'll highlight just a couple from each of these categories. Planning for the future, we continue to look for ways to maximize our investments in the frequent transit network. The Route 33 is a part of that. The Route 96 is a part of that. This is really our core services running on the region's north, south, and east-west concession block network. Fare and service integration. We are trying to leverage the momentum of the one fare and work with the province to implement new initiatives, including for specialized transit and for ability to pay initiatives on the fare side. Technology and innovation. We will be receiving up to 180 or procuring, I should say, up to 180 e-buses by 2028. That's a significant step towards Regional Council's electrification goals. We also have had some great feedback on our AI deficiency detection program, where we have cameras on buses. They run down the road, they capture garbage overflowing, shelters broken. We find out about it before we hear about it from the public, which is we're looking to expand next year as well. Finally, on the customer service side, we continue to expand and offer our award-winning travel training program. So ridership stats. The key message here is the pandemic is long behind us, but we are not seeing a leveling off of ridership growth back to pre-pandemic times, which is about 2 to 3% a year. Aurora is no different than the rest of the system. Year to date, up to July, up to August 2024 compared to 2023, Aurora has seen a 13% increase in ridership. So that's great news. Finally, next steps. I mentioned this at the outset. We will be seeking Regional Council approval through the operating capital budget submission in November. We will be finalizing the annual plan document and putting it on yrt.ca for everyone to see. And we have already started planning for our 2026 transit initiatives, which we'll be consulting about next spring. So we look forward to that. And I must be out of time with those sounds that are going. So that's all I have for you today.
Thank you. Council, can I get a motion to receive presentation? Councilor Gallo, Councilor Gardner. Any questions? Councilor Weiss.
Thanks very much. Great presentation. It answered a lot of my questions, but the increase in ridership that you're seeing, do you have a reason for that? Is that just population increase and so therefore more population, more ridership, or are you doing something to promote that actively?
Mr. Hertel?
Through you, sorry. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It's a great question. We've received it before. It seems to be a transit industry-wide phenomenon. We of course, we always promote our services. What I can say is that generally it seems to be an increase in discretionary trips and industrial trips as well, to industrial areas, employees, as we know, in terms of commuter ridership to downtown Toronto and those areas, that hasn't returned yet to the levels that we saw pre-pandemic. But what we're seeing is a big increase. I know this is specifically in Vaughan, but we've seen a massive increase in ridership towards, for example, Canada's Wonderland, Vaughan Mills Mall. So it's those types of trips that we're seeing really taking off post-pandemic.
Great, thank you. And through you, Mayor, your comment about the schools is very apt. And what kind of a communication plan do you have with the schools? Do you advertise and promote this to them? Or what is your plan to engage the students and parents more through you?
Mr. Hertel?
Of course, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we did engage the students in our decision making with the survey that I mentioned specifically for GW Williams. We meet biannually with the school board to discuss changes that we're working on, changes that they're working on in terms of the school transportation that's provided with the yellow school buses. We're in lockstep with them. In terms of communication to the parents, the students, and the schools with the changes, we do put together a package for them to include in their communications out to parents, and we also put notices up on the out in the field and at the bus stops as well.
Counselor?
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Counselor Kerner?
Hi, I didn't recognize you. So I live at Henderson and Yonge. What if I want to go up to the hospital? How do I get there? I mean, obviously not emergency.
Right.
Mr.
So assuming that you would not qualify for, we have a paratransit service that's direct door-to-door ridership. It's application eligibility based for people with disabilities. The best way I would find is two Viva routes. So Henderson and Yonge. I'm not sure where the exact Viva Blue stop is in that area, but that would give you the fastest jaunt because it uses the rapid way in Newmarket up to Newmarket Terminal, where you then transfer to the Viva Yellow, which again uses the rapid way on Davis Drive, drops you right off at the hospital.
Counselor?
Thank you. And I had the same question from somebody who lived on Wellington around Bayview. So to go over to Yonge and go up that way.
Through you, Mr.
Through
Mayor,
you, Mr. Mayor.
or you may now, actually since September, you could use the Route 33 up Leslie to connect to Viva Yellow on Davis Drive that way as well.
Counselor?
Thank you. The YRT bus that drives around town and does the circuit around town, don't see anybody. I mean, it's just what I'm looking. I don't see, and I have really very rarely seen anybody on it. Do you have any stats on that?
Mr. Hertel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We do. We can give you specifics. I don't have them on me right now, but if I follow up with an email, would that work?
That would be fine. But I guess the real question is, it's used enough to be worthwhile. I'm sure it doesn't cover its expenses, but you could.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's likely not one of our best performing routes. I'll be honest, but we do. So if I could give you a little bit of information on how we do this analysis. Twice a year, we do net cost per passenger and demand to capacity analysis of the whole system. And we use that analysis to determine which routes to scale back, which routes to increase service on, which routes to perhaps even cut. We also have service guidelines that have certain thresholds that routes should be, they're guidelines, so they're not absolute, but that routes should be meeting. If it's still there, my assumption is that route meets those guidelines, but there used to be a lot more in Aurora, and we really truly believe in the on-request services. In providing that demand responsive service to cater to specific needs of specific trips. We've been really rolling that out across the region and sometimes replacing low performance fixed routes. My apologies.
Counselor?
And you didn't mention, or I missed it. There used to be a cheap fare if you were going to the GO station.
Mr. Hertel?
Through you, Mr.
Through you,
Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
it's free. So we have, since 2022, YRT has service integration with GO, where GO reimburses the customer for the YRT fare. So as long as you're using your Presto card, you tap on the YRT bus, then you tap on GO, it recognizes that tap on to GO, it puts the money back in your account for the YRT fare, and vice versa on the way out as well.
Counselor?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hertel, for being here and talking about the initiatives going forward. I also took the opportunity to look at some presentations that were given to us pre-pandemic, just to take a longer horizon and do a comparison. Some of the information presented back then wasn't presented tonight, and so I thought I would just ask you about it if it's okay. If you don't know it, perhaps you can follow up with an email. But through Mr. Mayor to Mr. Hertel, one of the statistics he used to provide was on-time performance, how the service levels compare to our residents, and I was wondering if you can speak to that.
Sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can at a high level. I don't have the specific information here with me, but our on-time performance does meet our targets. We measure it separately for Viva routes and the rest of the system. The Viva routes have a higher threshold, have a higher standard of on-time performance. We're well over 90% for all of it, but if you'd like more details, I'm happy to follow up with an email for specifics.
That would be great. I mean, I think, looking historically back, it fluctuated between 90 and 95%, depending on the year. And like you said, I mean, it looked at Mobility Plus, Viva, YRT way back then. And so it would be nice to know whether or not those service level improvements are showing benefit to the residents. The second question really is around the revenue to cost ratios.
Yes.
You touched upon it briefly when you're answering Councillor Gardner's question with respect to route specific, but just in general overall, way back when, pre-pandemic, we were running at a revenue to cost ratio between 30 and 40%. Do you know where it is today?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we are close to 40% in the 37, 38 range currently. While our ridership has surpassed pre-pandemic levels, the costs obviously since then have greatly increased, including fuel, inflation. So because of the costs, and we also haven't had until this past summer, previous to that, since 2019, we have not had a fare increase. This summer we increased 3%. So we're really playing catch up. Previously we had increased fares a lot more frequently. So those are the high level reasons why we haven't really been able to hit 40% yet at this point.
Councillor.
And just as a comment, I think it's relevant information. Perhaps, you could circulate that information to members of council, but also going forward in future presentations to look back at the information presented, just so that we have those similar comparisons, because I think that's additional information of value. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Mr. Hertel, thank you very much for coming. Appreciate the presentation, and obviously we're doing a lot of work at the region in regards to transit right across the entire region. I know I'm looking forward. I don't really know who looks forward to going through the line items, but I know Mayor Lovett and myself are going to be dealing with the transportation budget line by line in the coming week, I believe. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to approving some more transit opportunities for our residents. So thank you for coming. Call a vote. That carries. Next presentation, 5.2, Stephen Forsey, Sport Aurora, regarding Sports Celebration Month 2024. Mr. Forsey, welcome. Floor is yours.
5, 10 minutes, 5.
5 minutes, but yeah, if you go over, I'll let you slide.
Thank you. Mayor Maracus, members of council, town staff, ladies and gentlemen. A few months ago on June 25th, I came before council to provide some history and a brief overview of the activities of Sport Aurora. Tonight, I'm here to tell you in a few minutes to highlight the activities that have been held this year, leading up to and including the town of Aurora's proclamation of October as Sports Celebration Month. That proclamation was made at the entrance to this building on October 1st to highlight our community's ongoing commitment to recognize athletic achievement and promoting an active community. Mayor Maracus, you were joined by Sport Aurora leaders, some of which are behind me tonight, and a very large group of sports enthusiasts. And if I remember correctly, they were mostly pickleballers. In mid-July, Aurora's Town Park Bandshell was the place to be for a sports celebration, as 45 of the town's top student athletes were honored during Sport Aurora's 2024 School Athlete of the Year Awards. Now in its 8th year, this annual event recognizes the outstanding achievements of students from both the York Region and York Catholic District School Boards. These young athletes were celebrated not only for their individual performances, but also for their role in promoting participation in sports and inspiring their peers to stay active. It's an important tenet of what Sport Aurora does. On September 22nd, Sport Aurora hosted the second of our semi-annual All Sport one-day programs. This sold-out event was exclusively for 80 young women between the ages of 8 and 14, who gathered at the Aurora Family Leisure Complex for the inaugural all-girls-only All Sport one-day extravaganza. This event was sponsored by the Canadian Women in Sport Next Play grant and provided our young participants with an opportunity to test drive a variety of sports, including martial arts, cheerleading, archery, volleyball, and a few others as well, in a supportive all-female environment. Sport Aurora had recognized the national trend decline in girls' participation in sports as they entered their teenage years and wanted to provide a local solution. So I think we've been able to do that. This past weekend at the Stonehaven Banquet Hall, Sport Aurora celebrated 12 teams, 139 coaches, athletes, and parents in our 13th annual Breakfast of Champions. Our MC for the last 10 years has been Aurora Tigers' Jim Thompson, who I know knows all of you. The special guest speaker was Andrew Cougar, an adaptive mountain biker who spoke about his journey, having suffered multiple injuries in a bike accident, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. It was a moving story, but it was also an opportunity to celebrate Andrew's book launch, Defy the Odds, which is a story of resilience and recovery. And the proceeds of that book are being directed to his Defy the Odds Foundation, a nonprofit aimed at giving at youth risk access to sports and athletics. This event also provided us with an opportunity to make the announcement of the Coach of the Year for 2024, Todd Martin from the Aurora Diggers, and the 2024 Athlete of the Year, Chloe Daniels from the Barbarians. In 2025, a project will begin to chronicle Sport Aurora's involvement in the community and will feature previous coaches and athletes of the year, the honored members of the Sport Aurora, as well as our heroes of sport and our pillar sponsors. We are hopeful that the announcement and the launch of the new Sport Wall of Excellence will begin a transformation of the Aurora Family Leisure Complex into Aurora's home of sport excellence. In closing, and this is of personal interest to me, this Sunday will be our 14th annual volunteer recognition event at Wicked Eats, where we will celebrate a total of 28 nominations from 23 different sport organizations, our largest number to date. As has been the case for many years now, Music Aurora will be providing some entertainment, and I hope that all of you can join us with MPP Michael Parza and MP Don Gallagher Murphy in acknowledging our sport volunteers. Again, thanks for the opportunity to do this, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Council, can I get a motion to receive the presentation? Councillor Weiss, Councillor Gardner, any questions? Councillor Weiss.
Stephen, thank you. Great presentation. I appreciate it. Naturally, all the things you do, and it's really nice to see some of the board members here, particularly Alan, who's responsible for some of that the celebration of sports stuff that we're talking about. It's really important. And so thank you for coming here tonight.
Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. I also want to thank you very much for coming here and expressing all the great things you guys are doing for sport in Aurora, between yourself and Lori, I see you in the crowd as well, Alan. You guys are always in there and ensuring that everybody's included, doing what you can, throwing those stories out there, giving accolades to volunteers, because as you know, volunteers are the backbone of increasing sports in Aurora, and obviously, you know, the young athletes and what we're trying to achieve. So I really do love the fact that you guys continue to work hard there. I wish I was at that breakfast. I know I said I was going to be there. I'm sorry I missed it. And I don't think I've missed one in the last 6 years. And this Sunday, unfortunately, I'm celebrating a birthday with my own family, but I just want to send my regards to everybody and congratulate everybody, at least from this end, on all their volunteerism and what you guys do as well. So thanks.
Councillor Gardner.
I thank you. I'm interested in the program you ran for just the girls. How did they find out?
Through you,
Oh,
Mr.
through
Mayor.
you, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We provide a number of different opportunities to get the word out, and whether it's in the local newspaper, the Auroran, whether it's through our website, whether it's through our 40+ member organizations, we let them know that this is what we'd like to do. And Lori does a fantastic job of, getting the word out and making sure that everyone is aware that it's going to happen on a certain date. And as I said earlier, it is important that we did one this year for just young women, and it turned out to be a tremendous success.
Counselor?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I think it's an excellent idea. And do you know how many participants you had and how many sports there were to try?
Mr. Forsey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we had 80 participants, and I think there were 8 sports in total, if I'm not mistaken. It's a full day of activity. So
Right, I remember.
it really is a great way to test drive something and find out if it's something you want to continue and do maybe on a full-time basis. So,
Counselor?
Be a great summer camp program, but I'm guessing that this is for slightly older girls.
eight to through you, Mr. Mayor, 8 to 14. I was a summer camp counselor as a teenager, but I don't have time to do that now. But it's a good idea. So maybe we'll look at extending the program and continuing to do an all-female program in the future.
Counselor?
Well, if I had a daughter in that age range, I would definitely sign her up because I mean, where do you get an experience like that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Mr. Forsey, thank you very much for coming this evening. It's great when we celebrate our athletes, our fellow Aurorans, especially in the sporting community. And I'm glad that the programming that Sport Aurora provides for the youth and for all the sports organizations in our community. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on Sunday and celebrating the volunteers within our sporting organization. So thank you very much. Call the vote. That carries. With no delegations, consent agenda. Someone like to move consent agenda? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gallo. Is there any comments or questions on the consent agenda? Call the vote. That carries. Number 8, Committee of the Whole meeting report of October. Any items that anyone would like to pull? Councillor Gilliland.
Excuse me, 8.8.3, please. 8.8.3.
3. Thank you. Any others? Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items minus 8.8.3? Councillor Gardner, seconder. Councillor Gilliland. Call the vote. Mr. Thompson. Councillor Thompson, yes. That carries. So move to 8.8.3. Councillor Gilliland, you pulled this one. Did you want to move the recommendation? Yep. Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Weiss, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you. Reading the report, quite interesting. And I also watched the committee of the whole as well. So it was very interesting to see how we were ebbing and flowing with the parking. Obviously, we have a new town square and we're objectively looking at the area in general as far as making sure we can accommodate people for shows and so forth. And I know that we are doing a townwide parking study, and I was looking at the logistics of that and the time frame and such. And I've had it kind of just led me to, we've had several conversations with some of the business owners down on Yonge Street. I noticed that wasn't included, and also that within this report, just completely did not consider at that time. And so since we are considering the area of Town Square, I would like to be able to consider Yonge Street for the short term as well. I know we have a townwide study, but I've had several restaurants, especially suggest that they would prefer to have at least a 2-hour parking on Yonge Street, because right now it is only 1 hour. Any restaurateur will tell you that an average person's seating time in a restaurant is at least 90 to 120 minutes. And several owners, business owners there have suggested that they will have several complaints that they're not getting enough reservations because they don't have enough adequate time to park on Yonge Street. And I just believe if we are having the short-term solution, I would like to see a short-term solution of increasing the parking on Yonge Street in that BI area from 1 hour to 2 hour. So at least we can help with the revitalization as down there as well as the business owners, the restaurateurs there, to help accommodate that growth. And especially if we are trying to encourage people to have dinners down there prior to a show, I believe we should also be ensuring that we are giving them a little bit of an advantage to participate in that parking incentive. They have expressed to me that there is not enough parking in the back on the west side, and that this would be a really huge help in increasing their reservations for the security of their clients coming, to know that they can have an adequate time to dine. So I'm not sure who wrote the report. Michael Haw, planning. So I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, is that something that we could implement short term in the BIA area for the restaurants in that area?
Mr. Ramuno, I'm assuming we're at the will of council, but go ahead.
Certainly,
Yes.
to you, Mr. Mayor. So, I mean, the report obviously didn't consider making any changes to the parking restrictions along Yonge Street. This evening, we also have the implementing bylaw to extend the parking limit from 3 to 4 hours. If that's council's direction, I can take that back, have a discussion with staff, and report back, perhaps even during the next committee of the whole council cycle, with the possibility of extending the Yonge Street parking limits from 1 hour to 2 hour, if that's the wish of council.
Council.
Thank you. I mean, I am happy with that, but is there not an opportunity, I know now, to be able to stipulate that as a line at number 3, that we extend from 1 to 2 hours on Yonge Street and short-term solution? Is that not something as a will of council that we could decide tonight to add to this? Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno?
Well,
You, Mr. Mayor, I mean, that's always obviously council's prerogative if you want to make that amendment to the report. I mean, we have a bylaw prepared currently now that doesn't speak to Yonge Street, but again, we're at council's direction. So if you want to make that amendment, we'll implement it.
Councilor.
Thank you. That's something that I'd like to consider for tonight. I'd like to have a discussion with my colleagues as well. I know I'm kind of throwing this out there because I wasn't here at the committee of the whole, but this has been a bone of contention with several restaurateurs on Yonge Street in the BIA area that has come to my attention over the last few years, but they've been waiting for this parking study. And I just feel that in the short term, I think that we should be granting them a little bit of extra time there so they can capitalize on this as well. But there's plenty of other people who want to chime in, so I'm happy to hear. Thanks.
Councilor Weiss.
Thank you. And I, on behalf of the BIA and the restaurateurs there, I agree with the councillor on this and be happy to second a motion should it come forward. But if I may, through you, Mayor, we talk about this townwide parking strategy, and I brought up the last day about the threat that we have in that area and where we've got narrow streets and parking on both sides, and asked about the emergency access to and from, and it still isn't in here, and I didn't expect that it was going to be in here. But when do you think through the townwide parking strategy is going to come before council? Because it's just it's something I think it's important from the safety of the residents in that area, through you probably to Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through Mr. Mayor, so it's anticipated that the townwide study should be completed by the end of 2025.
Councilor, end of 2025. My suggestion, recommendation to and advice to you, Councilor, is that if you feel the need to do something a little quicker than that, especially in regards to this specific issue, maybe you can bring forward a motion.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all? Councillor Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Romano. So if we did this amendment tonight, are you hesitating because the traffic analyst isn't involved or because it's not a correct process?
Mr. Romano?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, again, we've had that 1 hour limit on Yonge Street for some time now. So it's, it seems to work. So my only hesitation is, obviously, I'd like to confer with staff and legal with respect to, if any other staff see any issues with that, expanding that 1 hour to 2 hours. And again, but if that's council direction, then, I'll defer to legal if, by way of an amendment, if that happens this evening, whether, we can formalize that in the bylaw.
Mr. Serio, did you have anything to add to that? I had a feeling Councillor Gardner would ask for you next, but go ahead.
To you, Mr. Mayor, if council does want to amend it, I would just recommend putting an extra 2 rows. Interesting enough, I have the bylaw, as it currently is worded right in front of me. So we would be able to make the amendment. We're just not having the benefit of the traffic analyst or of bylaw services to see if there's any staff comments on it. But from a legal perspective, yes, it could be made.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you. I would support this amendment because it just makes common sense to me that, and there are a lot of restaurants on Yonge Street. And I just think it would be beneficial, at least to try it until we got the full traffic study back. And it is proposed amendments to locations in the downtown area. I think actually this is an important amendment. Thank you, Councillor Gillen. So I would agree with
Still
that.
don't have an amendment on the floor, but
Oh, that's true.
so if we can
Didn't
if we can speak to what
Okay.
is in front of us.
I'm not sure that you'll accept this, but when I came down from Yonge Street, I'm going south to Mr. Muno. I'm going south on Yonge Street, and I go past Wellington, and a lot of people don't want to be in the turning lane, so they go into the other lane, and then there's parking. Like you have to really get over fast. Could you check into that? I don't think it allows us enough time to get back so that we don't potentially bump into a car depending on who's behind us. Do you want to tell me what I just said? Do you want to say it back to me?
Mr. Romano, do you want to look into that?
Dear Mr. Mayor, I think I understand the question. Then I'll look into it. But we're aware of this parking spacing, and it works. It operates fine. But I'll definitely take another look and have a discussion with our traffic analyst.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you. And I know we want to put as much parking down there as possible. And I haven't seen any accidents. I just found that it's a little tight. Thank you so much. That's all I have.
Councillor Gallo, to the motion.
Thank you. I know the amendment isn't on the floor, but we've had input from staff and discussion. Just if I could weigh in quickly, in case it doesn't go on. I'm in favor of the concept. I just don't understand the rush. Nothing good happens when you do knee-jerk, quick things without proper analysis. And if it's 1 month away, I don't think those businesses will suffer much. It's a great idea, and I happily support having it come back in November, have staff look at it and advise. We can move ahead with this. That could be something in addition to this, but my preference would be to have them have a look at it, make sure they're okay with it, and then move forward.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I would agree with that as well. I mean, I think it's worth pursuing. I appreciate Councillor Gilliland bringing it forward, but as Mr. Ramuno commented, staff did look at it. So it would be interesting to hear what their thoughts are with respect to it, not just in terms of increasing the parking limit from 1 hour to 2, but also from where to where on Yonge Street does it make the most sense? what are the dividing lines, so to speak? And, I agree with Councillor Gallo that if staff can commit to getting it back to us in the next cycle, then it makes sense to have that information before making a final decision.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Line.
Thank you. I'm happy to put forward a motion in new business about this. If this is like the line of the process that we're going down, just based on some of the information around here. I do feel that within the report, it spoke to the fact that we did not look at Yonge Street at all. So if this is going to just wait a month, I don't mind throwing this in new business to ask staff to come back for the report. But I do feel that we should probably.
Councillor, we can just add it in now as an amendment to that staff come back to us
Okay.
next month. We can do it now instead of waiting till.
Okay, I wasn't sure where this was going.
It's just the type of amendment that you wanted to
Okay.
wanted to make. I think some wanted.
Perfect. So
to
I'd like
just
to
see
put the amendment on the floor then, that staff report back next month with the addition of increasing Yonge Street in the BIA district area specifically, because I don't want to put it all of Yonge Street because I think that's a really long stretch. And I think this will give us an idea as to, how that does affect Yonge Street. Now, we're still 4 to 6, no parking in north and south at certain times. We're not changing that. But if you can report the back, that would be great next cycle.
Okay. Just wait. Someone want to second that amendment? Councillor Weiss, thank you. Just wait to get it on the screen.
Thank you.
Since we all just talked to it already, I guess there's no need to speak to it again. Yes. Yeah, does everyone, we know, do you want to wait to the screen or do you need me to wait for the screen? Are we all good for that? It's worded that it goes straight to council.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So it would just come straight to council at the end of the month.
Gives enough time for staff to come
There's
back.
enough time because we're doing agenda.
And it's pretty
reviews already.
straightforward and we're still going to, yeah. I'm okay with that if.
Okay, so that's, we got a staff report back at the November council
Secondar's
meeting
okay.
regarding potentially changing parking restrictions on Yonge Street in the business improvement area from 1 hour to 2 hours.
That'd be great. Thank
Good.
you.
Seconder, good? Good, yes. Call the vote. Councillor Gillen. Councillor Gillen's yes. That carries. We'll move to main motion as amended. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gillen. Yes, Councillor Gillen's yes. That carries. Let's move to 9.1. Interim forecast update as of August 31st, 2024. Received for information. Someone like to move that? Councillor Gallo, Councillor Thompson. Any comments or questions on this item? Councillor Reese?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to probably Miss Wainwright Van Kessel. Just one small item I looked over in the forecast, and it's item GN 010 having to do with Town Square, almost $5 million in it. There's nothing in the box that says what that is referring to. So I'm just running through you if Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel can let me know what that is. I'd appreciate it.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, are you speaking to the attachment?
Yeah. Yes. Page 7. Down near the bottom. It's in capital.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So that's the planned spending for this year, for the forecasted spending just for this year. So it's part of the overall Aurora Town Square project, but it's only the amount would be forecasted to spend in 2024.
Okay.
Councillor,
Thank you. There was just no advice on it. I just wanted to know what it was. It's a big number. Thank you.
any other comments, questions? Call the vote. Councillor Gillen? Yes. Thank you. That carries. New business. Councillor Gallo? Go ahead.
Yes, I was hoping someone could provide any new or any information regarding, there's supposed to be a report coming back regarding the homeless shelter location, any new homeless shelter location. Does anyone have any information, any current information on the status of that, when that will be coming back?
Mr. Bruno or Mr. Seal?
To you, Mr. Mayor. So I did update council, I think about 6 weeks ago with regarding the interaction we've had with the region on looking for other sites. The process is still in their hands. We are working with them. Our staff work with the regional staff. They're taking a very full approach to the whole region and looking at other homeless related projects that they have in mind. And so we're still at this point waiting for some more feedback from the region.
Councillor?
Do we have a deadline? Do we have a timeline? It keeps ticking and ticking and ticking, and more time and more time and more time is passing.
Seal?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're really at the mercy of the region. This is really their project and their initiative. So they haven't indicated a deadline or that they're working towards. In fact, they've been, they seem to have, like I say, sort of gone back and looked at sort of their whole homelessness portfolio and where they plan on strategizing throughout the region. So I wouldn't categorize it as something they're in a rush to do.
Councillor?
Well, that's disappointing to hear because, I voted against the Aurora location for very specific reasons, none of which had to do with the need, the urgency, and all of that of that type of facility. And the time it's taking to either find a plan B or let's go back to the original idea, because I'm sitting here and the amount of time that it's taking, I'm regretting my decision of what we made back then. If I had known that it was going to take this long, I probably would have changed my mind. So if anyone could put any pressure on the region, maybe you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know, to, hit the ground running and let's go. Let's figure this out. Everybody was screaming urgency, urgency, urgency. And I'm starting to regret my decision.
Absolutely, Councillor. And I can tell you through Housing York and everyone sitting around the table at the region has shared the same concerns, I think, that we had around this table. We heard from the comments from the region when they presented that evening that there was no plan B at the time. And so I can tell you that everyone's staff at the region are working, as our CAO mentioned, looking at a region-wide approach, and they're looking at all possible land, vacant properties that the region owns, which we just got a report recently on, and we're looking at those properties, but also properties that have existing buildings on, and if they can be redeveloped. And so we're going through that process right now. Hopefully, as we continue through the budget process, and we get a more fulsome report on what each of those highest and best use on each of those properties are at the region, right across the entire region. We'll be able to move forward quickly at that point. Councillor?
Thank you. Could someone just remind me if, and I probably should know this, but did council, does council have a resolution on the books that staff will be coming back to us?
Mr. Seal?
Through Mr. Mayor, I can look it up directly, but I believe the basic direction was that staff work with the region on finding another location. But it's still their process, so we can't, and we have talked about certain sites and they're in consideration, but I believe that was the direction of council to staff, to our staff.
Counselor?
Okay, I mean, I'm sure we all share the same view that this is taking way too long. It's not easy, and I'm not suggesting it's easy, but just it boggles my mind that the urgency that we expressed, and we're nearly 2 years since that project at least first came to sight, and still nothing, and nothing in sight. Not only nothing, there's nothing in sight. It's very disappointing.
New business? Counselor Gardner, new business?
Mr. Mayor, a couple of residents who were attending one of our meetings said they had a really hard time seeing the screen, seeing the votes. Can we make it larger or somehow put it on the because if we're doing electronic voting and they're sitting and listening to the argument, if they can't clearly see, I mean, they should be able to clearly see how people are voting.
Mr. Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, yes, through the tablet next to me, I do. You probably should say 99% of the time, I hope change the screen on to what the public's doing on YouTube to show the votes. Like I said, maybe I forget on sort of delegation requests and anything, but it's fairly big. When I've looked at it, at least I can send you a couple of screenshots tomorrow.
Thank you. They were talking about, they were sitting, I guess, over there. And probably because of where they were and the screens are. So maybe if it was bigger. Because it's very disappointing to sit through a whole council meeting and not know how we're voting.
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll look into that.
Thank you so much.
Let's go in.
This on. Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Serio, just asking if perhaps Bylaw could take some extra measures to monitor Murray Drive, rather, in and around Aurora High School. There's been several complaints that I've received from some parents of parking and I guess maybe aggressive drivers who are rather impatient. I know there's a lot of kiss and ride there, and also parking in wrong spots. And there are a lot of students that walk there across the street. It's very busy there. We know it's a bit of an issue. And I just wanted to raise it to Bylaw. If maybe you could do some extra monitoring there to ensure that, it is a safe environment. And also just a shout out to the general public. Please drive safely. There are a lot of students that are walking around there. So we can all, do our part. That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Councilor Reese, new business?
Okay, thank you. I don't know if it's probably more of a public service announcement, but on Friday, it's Poppy Drive time, and we probably won't get back to it until after November the 11th. So I just want to remind people that the poppies are now going to be available for sale as of Friday through the Legion and other sites around. So keep that in mind. But the other the business item I had has to do with the speed enforcement, automatic speed enforcement. It says in the report, and I guess I could have brought it forward, but I didn't want to have a big discussion about it at that time. Can you tell me when you think the ASEs are going to be engaged in the community? I appreciate we have the community safety zones, but we're hearing from people about timing along that. And it said in some time in the future. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ramuno, probably when the ASEs are expected or anticipated.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think that there's a couple of things that need to happen. I think we need to go out to tender sort of the proposal, be sometime at the earliest, best guess, sometime in 2025. I mean, we would need to report back probably at the earliest, maybe the second quarter of 2025 would be the best case scenario. And then again, if we had direction and things worked out, we could probably implement some sort of system. Again, this is at the earliest, perhaps fall of 2025. And I guess it's just a guess at this time, best case scenario.
Counselor?
Oh, great. I think it'd be great to have it ready for school next fall when people are coming back. So I appreciate the timing on it. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Gilliland, you had something else?
Thank you. I apologize for that. Through Mr. Mayor to Ms. Camp or Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. Not sure who wants to answer. I did make an inquiry. Some seniors did reach out to me who felt that their fixed income did not meet the requirements for the window clearing subsidized program that we're offering. And one of the suggestions that they had suggested was facilitating a payment plan to help them pay for this service. And I know you did give me an answer back, but I just wanted to have your public feedback on this because I did want them to understand that why I'm inquiring about this. And I think it's a good learning for us, and if it's something we can do in the future, that's great.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, both Ms. Camp and I consulted each other on this, so either one of us could answer. Yes, we did receive your request. Given the amount of the payment, it would create a significant amount of administrative burden, specifically putting it over for separate payments. And also we are getting into the season, so it make it a little bit challenging if someone stops paying and does not make those installments. Do we stop clearing the windrows? So that's why we are looking for it as a lump sum. There are the opportunities for those who are on fixed income that are in those lower income brackets to be able to provide some supplemental information to qualify for a reduction for the fee as well.
Counselor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I am just going to make a comment suggesting that whether it's a low income or not, it's hard for them to do the lump sum. And I think that was part of the issue. But through Mr. Mayor and Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel, from what I understand, that's although this is really new, that perhaps down the road, administratively, that might be something that we could work out through. But right now, it's just very preliminary. Obviously, this is an early suggestion, but there is hope that perhaps maybe that's something we could look at.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we need to take it away and look at it, but we'd also have to look at the amount of additional work and see if there's a way to automate that process in any way if we were going to go ahead with it.
Counselor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I understand that because then you're spending more staff time. That's really not going to offset what we're trying to achieve here. So I get that. I just want to clarify for the public that it's not falling on deaf ears and we are looking at it, and perhaps maybe down the road, that's something we should look at further. Thanks.
Bylaws. Someone like to move the bylaws? Counselor Weiss, seconder. Counselor Thompson. Any comments, questions on the bylaws? Call a vote. Counselor Gillen. Oh, no, just good. It went through. It just went through. That carries. Confirming bylaw. Counselor Gallo. Counselor Gillan, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. Motion to adjourn. Counselor Gardner, Counselor Weiss, all those in favor? Opposed, that carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.